How's it, Mathieu? My name is Dale, and I'd like to chat to you about, some full stack development that you've mentioned to me, and I'd like to get a better understanding of, what direction I should go into, because I've been interested in it for quite some time.
Cool. Hey, my name is Maciek, and yeah, I can definitely help you with that. So full stack development. If you want to build an application, if you want to start your own business, if you just want to perform an experiment, then there are different aspects that you need to cover. So if you look at something like, I don't know, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or even eBay or Amazon, you
Yeah.
have a couple of different layers. And full stack development, it's called full because it covers the whole stack, all layers. And the layers are quite straightforward.
Yes.
So you have the website or a mobile application at the very top.
The first layer, basically, yes.
That's the first layer, that's right. That's the client layer.
Yeah.
Then the website or the application talks to the middle layer, which is that's the service layer.
Okay.
So that's typically running in the data center far away, and it validates all the communication between the lower layer, which is the database, and that's our persistence. That's where the data lives. And the highest level, which is our application. So you've got three layers. You've got the client, you've got on the server, you have the middle tier, which is services layer, and then you've got the persistence, which is the database. That's in a nutshell.
Okay, so generally speaking, there's three layers, is what you are saying. Okay, and I assume each of those layers can be broken down into more layers if you need to. Okay.
Yeah, all right. Absolutely.
So my question is, I fiddle around with developing websites, basic websites using WordPress. So does that make me a level 1 stack developer, or what does that make me?
Well, you definitely get to deal with the presentation layer. So that would be the website, the top one.
Yes.
And then if you make it dynamic, if you have the database underneath, then you would cover the database layer, which is the bottom layer.
Yes.
And then if you have some service in between what the client can see on the screen and what the application does with the database, then that would turn it into a full stack, conceptually speaking.
Okay, so what do you mean by application? So I'm talking about. I've got a website that sells a product online, an e-commerce website. Okay, it's a very simple website. It's got maybe 10 products on the site, and I've created it using WordPress. So I believe it runs a MySQL database. And it's all online as far as I understand, but at the hosting company, it will obviously be sitting on the servers. So when you mention application, what do you mean application?
So when I say application, I mean the whole concept overall. You can have, like, if you think about eBay, they have a mobile application that if you've got an iPhone, you download it from your app store. If you have an Android device, you download it from the Play Store, and then you install it on your mobile device. And that application, that user interface that talks directly to the server, which in turn talks to the database. And by bringing up your WordPress e-commerce application, it sounds like, yes, you are covering the full stack, because all those three different layers, you must have them. You have the website, you have the service, which is accepting the orders and processing the payments. And then you have the database that stores the products, and it stores the categories, and it stores the quantities, the stock levels, and then it stores the order details, and then it stores the status of the order. So yeah, in your example, I would classify that as a full stack solution.
Oh, okay, but those are template-based full stacks, which I'm not actually developing a stack. All I'm doing is I'm taking a template and I'm filling the information in. So somebody else actually created it. So now when it comes to somebody like you would then create from the user interface being the website. You would build that using code or templates, I suppose.
That's right. So what you're doing is you're taking off-the-shelf solutions, you're taking off-the-shelf components, and they all live within the WordPress ecosystem. So all the components work with each other. So somebody else wrote them, and you've got certain flexibility in terms of what plugins work with what other plugins. So for example, if you go for a particular e-commerce WordPress platform, then it works with MySQL database, or it works with Postgre database, or any other database. So there is certain degree of compatibility, but in that ecosystem, you're primarily dealing with pre-built components, but there is nothing stopping you from writing your own. But what I would do as a software developer, as a full stack developer, is I would typically write them from scratch, and there is reasons for that.
Okay, so yeah, I mean, I suppose if the things are going to become more complicated, I built that site for myself, but I'd like to become more advanced and go and work for a corporate company. Or a development company that does software development or website or full stack development for corporate businesses, something like you do. So, what would be the purpose around becoming more advanced instead of using a basic template-based system that is available out on the net?
Well, I think that's where the money is. That's where the jobs are. That's probably the best answer, really, because what's really important is to never redevelop the wheel. So if all you want to do is to sell your 7 or 10 products, then use your WordPress solution, get them off the shelf, pay your $3 to your hosting company, and that's going to make your day. That's not a problem. But if you want to get a career out of it, and if you want to become a proficient software developer that gets a job that pays you good money, then you have to be able to train yourself up and implement those things yourself and become an expert in making decisions on how to build custom systems for businesses that require greater level of scalability, for example. And I've done e-commerce for about 5 years, and I've been building stores. I've set up around 600 stores probably, and the company required certain degree of flexibility, so it would scale. And I was building the platform so somebody else could be just setting up a store like that. But my stores were able to handle 50,000 products quite easily, which is something that you don't really get out of the box on an average e-commerce platform, especially in the days when I was doing that 10 years ago.
Okay. So would it also, have something to do with the security? Because WordPress is, I suppose, almost like an open source product. You would want more of a company would want more of a custom solution because of, like you say, the scalability and the stability around using 50,000 products on a template-based system.
Yeah, so security is kind of actually quite good in the open source community, because the source is open, everybody can review, and there are issues. Every software has got issues, but the good thing about open source is that the moment somebody discovers an issue, if they're not a mean hacker, then they typically fix it before announcing it. So security is actually quite good in open source. But if you're a developer that can develop something, if you can earn 200,000 US dollars in a year,
Yeah.
then typically you would be earning this money and you wouldn't be working on something you can give away for free.
Yeah.
So because I spent 5 years in e-commerce, I can say that one of the solutions, one of the targets and business requirements was not only to have a store that could easily handle 50,000 products, but another aspect was that we required all of the stock to be updated multiple times a day, to be in line with the distribution channels. And very often we required the store to be set up for free, to be set up in a timely fashion. So back then we had an issue that typical open source platform would be uploading products one by one, and we needed to have the ability of bulk uploading 50,000 products in one go.
Okay.
So these are the real life aspects that software developers need to solve. And this is why people have jobs. And this is the bespoke requirements that certain businesses have.
Okay. So the exciting part about your job would be working on new projects and also the access to the servers. You can go and fiddle around and build and test and do what you need to do. And you have people that are working under you as testers that would test your builds and so forth. I suppose with a template-based system, it's just a matter of I'm taking information and smashing it into a template and supplying that to the customer as that sort of a solution. Yeah, I think. Can you tell me more about the exciting parts of your job?
Well, good question. Probably you can certainly look at it that way. That if you're dealing with like free entry-level software, it obviously works, but then you're typically stuck at home, and it's not much of a career. However, if you go to a work environment where you work as a software developer, if you are a technical person that you treat that as a hobby, if it's your passion, if it's your hobby, if you want to be in the ecosystem, then you get to deal with some of the smartest people around. And you end up covering the whole spectrum in software development through yourself and your colleagues, and you create a team, and you typically have to be kind of a smart dude to cover all that. And then you have testers, you have product managers, you have project managers, you've got collaboration, you have people that work with you. The fact that you're a full stack developer and you can deliver the whole thing yourself does not mean that you will be doing only that all the time. So myself, I very often need to step out of my full stack developer role and put on other kind of shoes. Sometimes I need to help somebody out. Sometimes I have people around me that are not as experienced as I am, so I teach quite a lot. Sometimes I go into meetings and I give my opinions, and then we try to find a good solution to a problem that we haven't solved yet. That's quite exciting. Sometimes you've got this technical problem versus business problem, and they don't quite go together, and you have to find, what does take precedence, what's more important. Very often you have other members of the team that are like, you've got a highly specialist on databases alone. Other days you have a person that's a fantastic web developer. Other days you've got a fantastic front-end developer, a graphic designer, you've got user experience person, and it's a blend of skills. So if you go professionally and you approach it as a job and career, then you get to work with one of the smartest people around. And ironically, the entry level is quite low, but then you can take it to any level you want. And, some companies deliver fantastic products, and it's fantastic to be part of that.
That's brilliant. That sounds very exciting. The fact that you're working in a team, you're able to test with new technologies, you're getting specialists that are working with you, and you can tap into that knowledge of those guys, and that expands your knowledge as well. I'm very excited about this full stack development, and I appreciate your time. And we'll have a chat again and see if we can maybe move forward. Thank you very much, Mache.
My pleasure, Dale. So speak to you soon, and hopefully we can take this further.
Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Thank you. Good evening.